By the late 1860s, suffragists in the United States had been working for women's voting rights for 20 years, and finally they were on the verge of a breakthrough. On February 12, 1870, the all-male legislature of Utah Territory unanimously passed a suffrage law allowing women to vote. And 2 days later, on February 14th, a 23-year-old school teacher named Sarah Young became the first woman to vote under a law that gave women the same voting rights as men in the United States of America. Women's rights activists around the country were ecstatic, not only for the breakthrough for American women in general, but also for Utah women in particular, many of whom were Mormon plural wives. Polygamy was referred to at the time as one of the twin relics of barbarism. The other twin was slavery. And some feminists thought that if Mormon women just had the right to vote, then of course they would outlaw polygamy and free themselves from oppression. So you can imagine the surprise when Mormon women proceeded to vote to protect polygamy. This incident illuminates an important question that we are still trying to figure out today. Is any choice made by women inherently a feminist choice? Lately, I've been noticing some savage debates in comment sections, arguing about whether feminism means women being empowered to do whatever they want. Is being a stay-home girlfriend a feminist choice? How about a wife choosing to obey her husband? There's a particular idea called choice feminism, which holds that any choice a woman makes is inherently feminist, and that a woman's individual freedom to choose represents women's liberation. Now, that may sound reasonable in many ways, but let's unpack it a bit. First, with the definition of the word feminism, and then with some analysis of real-world women's choices. We're going to get into some complicated discussions, but I promise that by the end of this video, you'll be able to think and talk about this subject with much more clarity than you do right now. First, the definition. Feminism is defined as the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. There are two important parts of that definition. First, feminism holds as a fundamental truth the equality of the sexes, which means that no sex deserves to have more rights or privileges than another. And the other part of the definition says that we need the advocacy of women's rights because currently the scale is still not balanced. One sex does have more rights, privileges, and status than the other. So it's going to take more work to get to justice. That's the definition. Now, let's take a look at some real-world situations where women have made choices, and we'll ask ourselves if they're feminist or not. Most people don't know about the National Association Opposed to Women's Suffrage, which was founded by Josephine Jewell Dodge and included many other women who fought against women having the right to vote. Was Josephine Jewell Dodge a feminist? She was a woman making a choice, but was she working toward equal rights for women? Or how about two women named Kate Gordon and Laura Clay, who led the Southern States Women's Suffrage Conference, which was a group dedicated to winning voting rights for women, but only white women. They pioneered the so-called Southern strategy, which fought for white Southern women to be able to vote specifically because they knew that those women would vote to preserve white supremacy in the South. Now let's look at an ongoing debate today, whether male religious leaders should allow women to be ordained to the priesthood and have the same spiritual leadership opportunities as men. Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodox churches, Orthodox Judaism, the Southern Baptist Convention, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are all overtly, unapologetically patriarchal, with male leaders excluding women from ordination. And in the faith tradition I come from, the LDS Church, exclusion from priesthood doesn't just mean you can't be a priest. It means you're excluded from leadership positions in your congregation and in your home. So for today, I'll just pick one religion to represent the group. Let's do the Anglican Church. Like most other Christian churches, Anglicans did not ordain women for most of their history. But on June 28, 1974, a group of 11 women, later referred to as the Philadelphia 11, convinced 3 retired bishops in Philadelphia to ordain them. This action forced the Anglican Church's leadership to figure out what to do with them. And within a few years, their ordination was regularized, and the ordination of other women quickly followed. I have to say here, if this had happened in the LDS Church, there would not have been regularization. Everybody would have been excommunicated. But I digress. However, even in the modern Anglican Church, there are still many people who oppose women's ordination, including women like this one who speaks out against women's ordination and avoids even attending congregations with women leaders. The Philadelphia 11 and the women who oppose them are all women making choices of their own free will, but is actively opposing other women's right to leadership feminism? Now, let's pause here and ask a two-part question. First, why do women sometimes vote against their own rights? And second, why do women vote against other women's rights? First, why would women vote against their own rights? Well, because patriarchy is effective. Male supremacy got into the matrix of our social systems thousands of years ago, and our laws and our scriptures and our social customs have conditioned everyone, even women, to think that men having higher status and power than women is normal. We see this indoctrination of internalized inferiority in other social systems as well. I just read Percival Everett's book, James, where the main character, Jim from Huckleberry Finn, is horrified to discover that some enslaved people defended the system of slavery. They'd been effectively brainwashed to accept their own subjugation. Or think about the character of Mr. Carson, the butler on Downton Abbey.
This is Mr. Carson, the butler of Downton Abbey.
He believes it would be inappropriate for members of his social class to try to rise above their station. No one has to force Mr. Carson to stay on his rung of the social ladder. He thinks he belongs there.
Get back to your work.
The same thing happens with women. If they've been taught by their own parents and their own trusted community members that they're supposed to follow men, especially if God himself said so, then of course that's how they feel safe, and that's how they get praise and approval and privileges from men in power. And now the other question. Why would women not support other women? Well, in some instances, like we mentioned earlier, it's racism, pure and simple. In other cases, it's classism. And in many cases, it's not really conscious animus against other women, it's ignorance. It's women focusing on themselves getting ahead without considering what's happening to the women around them. I love how Beck explains it.
White feminism exports and advocates a very specific skill set to navigate patriarchy rather than dismantle it. So to give you an example, and I have many, white feminism has always been very big on sort of presenting patriarchy as this like almost video game. And if you can get enough education, if you can get enough skill sets, if you can get enough like hacks or cheating codes, you can succeed in patriarchy. But those exact barriers that you're jumping over, that you're trying to hack, those don't change. And white feminism as an ideology and a practice has never been about changing those barriers. Contrastly, like I said for the other points, Black feminism, Chicana feminism, many working class feminisms focus on those barriers and taking down those barriers rather than optimizing yourself to get over the barriers.
This is a powerful critique of the way white women have historically employed choice feminism. And here's a real life example. Let's say I'm a woman in my 30s and I decide to start my own company. I have young children, and it's physically not possible for me and my partner to do our jobs and take care of our kids and cook and clean. So we decide to hire someone to help us by cleaning our house. Our helper is also a mom with kids who is trying to make a living. So I have a choice. Do I keep my costs low by paying her the minimum amount I can get away with? Do I insist that she work on days when her kids are sick or have days off from school? Do I think about whether she has a chance to start her own company and get ahead? What I'm asking is, does feminism make me responsible for her? I think it does. This is a clear choice of whether I will blithely jump over my own obstacles or whether I will stop and try to clear the path for others, not just myself. Feminism, in my view, means the advocacy for the rights of all women. However, I think there's an important caveat. Sometimes women, particularly white, Western, affluent women, have attempted to dismantle other women's barriers or liberate other women in contexts that they don't understand. For example, in the 19th century, some British women wanted to free their Muslim sisters from oppression. So they took up the cause of saving Muslim women from their oppressive clothing, especially the veil that covered their hair. They knew nothing about Islam or what the veil meant in Muslim women's vastly varied cultural contexts. And these women also failed to see the irony that their own clothing was not exactly liberated. Harvard scholar Leila Ahmed points out how this hypocrisy and arrogance made many Muslim women claim their traditional clothing even more strongly to align themselves with their families and their faith rather than with sanctimonious imperialist outsiders. Here's another example. This is one of the thorniest examples I can think of on the topic. It's called female genital cutting, or you might have heard it called female genital mutilation. This is a tradition common in many parts of Africa, the Middle East, and the Asian subcontinent, where girls between infancy and the age of 15 are subjected to surgeries that, in many cases, permanently remove their capacity for sexual pleasure. Around 230 million women and girls alive today have been subjected to genital cutting, and the procedures are nearly all performed by women, usually requested by the girls' mothers and carried out by a woman in the community. This is perhaps the most compelling argument that not every choice a woman makes is a feminist choice. A woman removing the clitoris of an unconsenting little girl is not feminism, obviously. But what should I do about it? Well, in studying this subject and speaking with experts on female genital cutting, it seems that campaigns from outside of the place's cultural context have made communities who practice cutting want to double down on their traditions and just do a better job at hiding it from outsiders. Western judgment can feel like imperialism and racism, and it often is. So my takeaway is, if we don't want women to cut their daughters' bodies, maybe we start by looking at our own society. If we don't want patriarchy determining women's and girls' dress codes, maybe we look at the modesty language in our own schools' dress codes. There's plenty of work to do as we get to know and work to care for all the people in our own communities. Which brings me back to those 19th century Mormon women, because guess what? Those women were my ancestors. And I hate it when people who have never been Mormon lecture me. From my childhood, when evangelical kids would make me cry saying I wasn't a Christian, to my young mom years when secular feminist friends made me cry saying I wasn't a feminist. The arrogant criticism or gatekeeping of outsiders never taught me anything or helped me in any way. So I'm embarrassed to say that I myself fell into this trap recently and narrowly avoided turning into a gatekeeping troll. I was at a conference where I was going to give a talk on the history of patriarchy. A woman a little older than I am came over to me and told me that she was excited to hear me speak because she was a feminist too. Now, normally I would have thought that was great, but I soon found out that she was a current plural wife. A big hot ball of "you are not a feminist" rose in my chest. I do believe polygamy is inherently sexist and completely incompatible with gender equality. I'm mortified that my ancestors practiced polygamy, and it pains me to see women continue to use their agency to choose it. However, I coached myself to be curious, not judgmental, and after a few minutes, we were laughing and talking. And would you believe it, this woman not only attended my talk, which was a scathing rebuke of patriarchy, but she also brought her husband and her teenage sons. And they all stayed and listened the entire time. What do you think would have happened if, when she had said, "I'm a feminist too," I had said, "No, you're not," and lectured her about polygamy? So, to wrap things up, here's my summary of today's points. Number 1, feminism means the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. Fundamentally, I do believe that means that women need the same rights as men to do whatever they choose to do. However, number 2, once women have the right to make their own choices, not every decision a woman makes is a feminist choice. Number 3, remember Beck's analogy of the video game. Feminism means removing the barriers for others, not just jumping over them yourself. But also keeping in mind, number 4, start in your own community. Ask questions and support women in the ways that they say they need support. For me personally, part of my feminist work is reaching out in love and understanding to dismantle barriers in the mainstream Mormon community I grew up in, and if they're willing, in the polygamous community too. And I will continue dismantling barriers through making these videos, sharing information about patriarchy and intersecting modes of oppression with anyone who's willing to learn for free. What will you choose to do? Thanks for watching. Please help me reach more viewers by taking a moment to share this video with a couple of friends or family members, because then not only will those friends see it, but the algorithm pops it into even more people's feeds who might not discover it on their own. Thank you so much.